Hey guys, okay, welcome to our first Ecology PowerPoint video. Okay, things to remember as you go through this. I might go faster through a slide than you are writing. Remember, it's a video, so you can pause and you can go back and you can, rewind, or you can, wait until you catch up everything. If you have any questions or if you have trouble viewing this, just let me know. Zip me an email or something like that. Okay, so what we are starting with here is ecology. Okay, and the focus of ecology is going to be how living organisms interact with each other. So if I were you, I would put in big, bold words next to this definition the word relationships, because it's all about how organisms are going to relate to one another. Also, while you're making little special annotations here, a big note, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, guys. This looks like a great essay, okay? This is how we divide up the study of ecology from our smallest level, looking at an individual, all the way up to a biosphere, looking at all living things on planet Earth. And then obviously there's all the stages in between here. So make sure you know these in order. Maybe you can come up with a mnemonic device for the IPCEB. If you do, please feel free to share it with me on the website. Remember these in order, and then also be able to provide a good example. Here's an example from your textbook. Not that I'm saying that this is going to be the one used on your final exam essay, but if we're looking at this, each concentric circle sort of identifies a different level of organization. Okay, you'll see all the way out here, biome. We're not going to be studying that one, so don't worry about it. Just worry about individual, population, community, ecosystem, and biosphere. So for example, if I were describing a community, I would say a community includes all living factors. So this would be the moose, what is that, like a jaguar, beaver, jackrabbit, and owl, in addition to the trees, organisms we can't see like bacteria, things like that. Okay, only all living things. Alright, so when studying at an ecosystem level, we want to look at how these living and non-living things affect a certain individual. So biotic and abiotic are our vocabulary terms for this page. Bio, we see the prefix here, meaning life. So the things that you interact with that are living would be your family members, so other members of your species, other species as well, prey, predators, things like that. Abiotic factors, by putting that A there, it means without life. So these are your non-living factors that affect how you live. Those would be things like rock, soil, air, water, okay, things like that. So a habitat makes up both biotic and abiotic factors. So we have this guy here, okay, we see it's a polar bear. Some abiotic factors would be the water or the ice, the air, and the wind quality, because wind is really rough on a polar bear. A lot of them die from the harsh winds during the winters. But also biotic factors, any other polar bears that they have to, say, compete with or maybe mate with. Some of their prey, they definitely love seals and other living things that are around there. Okay. Most importantly, and where we get a lot of our data from for ecology, comes by studying at the population level. So when we look at the size of a population, we know that they're in, good condition if they are stable, meaning that the size is going to stay the same, from a day-to-day basis, but also like a year-to-year basis. Okay? We can also look at the density of a population. How many individuals are living within a certain area? So a high density population would be something like millions of bacteria living on a small bite taken out of an apple. Whereas low density, as we see there are lions, would be an example of low density, because there might be 5 or 6 lions, but they have, 100 square miles. So they're very spread out. Sometimes your population density can change due to environment changes, so make sure that you click on the link on the website and learn more about the harlequin frog. All right. Population growth. This is where we're going to focus our energy for really getting into details here. Populations can increase by birth of individuals, obviously, but also through immigration, and that's IMMI, okay? Immigration would describe individuals moving into an area. Population can also decrease if we have death occurring or if we have emigration. That's a movement of individuals out of an area. Both immigration and emigration are sort of permanent moves, okay? Then we see migration down here. This is moving in and out of an area over and over again. So birds flying south for the winter, but then coming back early in spring. What would cause individuals to move? Obviously, think about what would cause you to move. If you needed resources for your living, okay? If you needed food or shelter, or you needed to find mates. So always keep that in mind. So we're going to look at two different types of growth patterns here. Okay? The first one is exponential growth, and the first thing I want you to do is notice the shape of this curve. Okay? Just draw a quick sketch of this graph, and the most important thing is it has a J curve. So the population starts slow, and then it suddenly starts booming, increasing higher and higher and higher. This obviously cannot go on forever. We could not cover the entire Earth because ultimately the resources needed to support all these individuals would run out. Okay, so we don't really see exponential growth that much in nature. Instead, what we do see here is logistic growth. So if we look at this graph here, okay, you see that familiar J curve. But then ultimately what starts to happen is instead of continuing a steep growth curve, we're going to see it start leveling off. And we know when a slope goes horizontal, then it's equal to 0. And that indicates that the population has slowed or become steady. It does not mean the population stopped growing. Make sure you know that difference, okay? The population is still growing, okay? This means this is the maximum size that our population can ever get to given our limited resources. And so just look at it here. It sort of looks like an S, a very flat S. But still, you get the difference between J curve and S curve. Okay? When looking at logistical growth, okay, we know those limiting factors like water, space, food, predators, disease, things like that are going to prevent that population from going up and up and up and up. So when they finally hit this maximum size, we're going to give that a name. We call that the carrying capacity, okay, right here. The way you find carrying capacity, look for the top of the slope where it starts to level off, and then just follow it over to the y-axis, and then whatever population size that number happens to be, that would be your carrying capacity. So what are these characteristics that are going to control how our populations grow? Well, some of them are going to be dependent on the size of the population to begin with. For example, predation. If you have a lot of individuals in your population, it might be very hard to hide them all, and so you might see a higher chance of predation occurring. Okay. In addition to that, when you cram a lot of individuals into an area, competition is going to be high, as well as disease is going to affect a population much more strongly when there are lots of individuals in a small area. So it literally depends on the density. Okay? Whereas density independent factors, that's going to be things that are happening in nature, and it doesn't matter whether your population is 5 or 5 million, you're going to be affected the same way. The most popular idea here would be anything resulting from a natural disaster: fire, flood, mudslide, lava flows, things like that. So if a squirrel's family was affected by a forest fire, okay, it wouldn't matter if there were 5 family members or 50 family members or 500 family members. They would all be affected by the fire in the same way. So when we look at changing populations, and this is the end of our first video here, we're going to look at how all of these limiting factors are affecting populations. And sometimes there are factors that we don't even really think of. But these are going to be your key ones. So we need to look at independent factors, and we need to look at dependent factors as well. So all of these are going to influence how a population will change size. Okay, and that is the end of video 1.